All right, let's talk about something huge, something you hear about all the time, Industry 4.0. It's one of those terms, right? It can sound a little intimidating, maybe even a bit scary, especially when you think about the future of work. But our goal today is to cut through all that noise and really get to the heart of what this human-machine shift actually means for you and me.
So, let's just get right to it. Are robots coming for your job? I mean, that's the big question, isn't it? It's the one that makes for a great headline. But what if I told you it's actually the wrong question to be asking? We're about to dive into why the real story here is so much more nuanced, and honestly, way more interesting, than a simple yes or no.
So, what's the engine behind all this anxiety? Well, it's this thing we call Industry 4.0. And really, it's just a fancy term for a bunch of powerful technologies all coming together at once. Things like AI, the Internet of Things, IoT, where all our devices are connected, and of course, automation. But look, this isn't just about cool new robots or shiny gadgets. This is a fundamental rewiring of, well, everything, how companies run and how we all fit into that picture. And that brings us to the first big myth we need to bust. This whole story about mass job extinction, it's just not the full picture, not even close. The data, the real-world evidence, it all points to something else. Jobs aren't just disappearing. They are changing. They're evolving into something new.
Okay, so take a look at this. It really breaks it down perfectly. Think about it. Old work on a factory floor was doing the same repetitive assembly over and over. New work? Supervising the robots that now do that assembly. Or how about in a hospital? Old work was walking around with a clipboard, manually counting supplies. The new work is managing a dashboard that uses data to predict what supplies will be needed before they run out. See the pattern? The boring, repetitive task gets automated, and the human role gets elevated to something more strategic. And this creates a whole new category of job, what you could call a hybrid human-machine job. The whole humans versus machines thing, it's a myth. The reality is humans with machines. It's a partnership. These new roles are all about taking our unique human skills, our judgment, our ability to solve weird, complex problems, and supercharging them with the raw power and speed of automated systems.
So if you take away one thing, let it be this. The shift is from doing the task yourself to supervising the system that does the task. We're moving from being the hands-on labor to being the brains of the operation. It's a massive change from just doing the work to overseeing it.
Okay, so if the jobs themselves are changing this much, what does that mean for us, for our skills? Well, it means they have to change too. So let's talk about the new must-have skills you're going to need to really succeed in this new world.
The days of being a hyper-specialist in just one narrow thing are, well, they're fading. The modern worker is more like a Swiss Army knife. You need a blend of different skills. You need the technical chops to actually work with these new systems. You need the analytical skills to make sense of all the data they're spitting out. And you need the governance skills to make sure it's all running smoothly and ethically.
And what does that actually look like day to day? We're talking about things like data literacy, which is just a fancy way of saying you can look at data and know if it makes sense or not. It's being the person on the factory floor who can figure out why an IoT sensor is acting up. And it's even leading to completely new kinds of jobs, like being a fairness auditor for an AI system, making sure its decisions are unbiased. How cool is that?
Look, this is a huge change, and it's not easy. It's a massive undertaking for any company, so you have to ask, why bother? What's the big payoff? Well, the data's pretty clear. The rewards are huge. We're talking about building companies that are way more efficient, way more flexible, and can grow much faster.
Let's get into some hard numbers. Check this out. In some of the early warehouse tests, companies saw a 25% increase in how quickly they moved inventory. That is a massive efficiency gain. And that's not all. At the same time, they slashed tracking errors by 20%. Think about that. A more reliable supply chain just like that.
And the one everyone cares about, the bottom line. They saw their operating costs drop by 15%. And get this, that was in just 1 year. You can see why companies are racing to do this.
And these aren't just one-off examples. When you look at broader studies using really smart techniques like process mining, which basically creates a map of how work gets done, the savings are even bigger. We're talking operational cost cuts of 20 to, wait for it, 40%. That's huge. And it's not just about saving money. That frees up resources and, more importantly, it frees up people to do more valuable, more interesting work.
Okay, so this all sounds great, right? Plug in the tech, get the savings, easy. But it's not that simple. Not at all.
There is a huge, complex, and really important human side to this story that we have to talk about. This quote right here really says it all. It's a serious warning. The danger of people losing their jobs, it's real. But here's the key part. It's not because of the robots. It's not inevitable. It's what happens when companies fail to invest in their own people, when they don't have a plan for reskilling and moving people into these new roles.
And when we talk about reskilling, it's not just about teaching someone how to code. It's a two-part challenge. Of course, there's the technical side. You have to learn the new systems. But there's also a huge psychological side. Think about it. You have to learn how to trust an AI's recommendation, how to work alongside a robot, how to tell a smart system when it's wrong. It's a completely different way of thinking about work.
But let's be real. The road to get there is bumpy. Companies run into some major hurdles. You've got ancient IT systems that don't talk to each other. You have messy, disorganized data, and AI can't run on bad data. And of course, there's the big one, making that huge long-term commitment to properly train your entire workforce. It costs time and it costs money.
So, knowing all these challenges, what do we do? Where do we go from here? How do we actually build this better future and make sure this human-machine partnership works for everybody, not just a select few?
Well, the answer really boils down to being intentional. This collaborative future isn't just going to magically appear. It's something we have to design, something we have to build on purpose, with a real plan. And a huge piece of that plan is a concept called human-in-the-loop governance. Sounds complicated, but it's actually super simple. It just means that when the stakes are high, a human being always has the final say. A computer can suggest, but a person decides. This does two brilliant things. It catches big errors before they happen, and, this is critical, it helps us all learn to trust these new systems.
And the good news is, we have roadmaps. We've seen this done successfully. A great example is the Cleveland Clinic. They didn't just throw robots at the problem. They had a clear step-by-step process. First, they got their house in order, standardizing all their basic systems. Then they brought in the automation. And the most important part? They did all of this while they were actively retraining their people for new jobs in analytics and system management. It shows that there's a clear, repeatable path to get this right.
And that really brings us full circle. The true promise of all this technology, of Industry 4.0, it's not about replacing people. It never should be. It's about augmenting us. It's about freeing human beings from the dull, the dangerous, and the repetitive work, and redeploying our incredible talent to do the things that, frankly, only we can do. The creative, the strategic, the empathetic work.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought. The technology is getting smarter every single day. The machines are definitely learning. The real question we all need to ask ourselves is, are we?